Hello, and thank you for watching. My name is Bradford Roberts, Principal Broker, Founder, and Owner of TR Realty in the Las Vegas area. After watching this video, please be sure to like it as well as subscribe to our YouTube channel. Download the pertinent handouts for this video by clicking the link in the comments below. Now let's get started. This video is entitled Class 3 Buyer Excellence, and the segment is entitled FHA Buyers. The reason that I'm doing a separate segment on FHA buyers is because FHA buyers have special needs. As many of us know, sellers typically prefer cash offers, followed by conventional offers, and typically FHA offers are near the bottom of the stack. There's some reasons for that. One is most FHA buyers don't put a lot of skin in the game. In other words, they're not putting a lot of money down on the transaction, and sellers often feel without a lot of money down on the table, there's an increased likelihood that they will walk away. Another reason that FHA buyers are typically near the bottom of the stack is because of the difficult appraisal process. See, FHA requires that homes be habitable, and the definition of habitable can vary from area to area. But as an example, we can't sell a house to an FHA buyer if the kitchen cabinets are missing, or if the window lock might be broken, or if there's not certain appliances in the property. So these requirements that the home be habitable are known as funding conditions. And typically we don't have funding conditions in conventional mortgages in most cases. So this can often mean the seller has to do repairs and spend the money to do those repairs that he might not have or might not wish to spend, might not want to go through the hassles of taking care of those repairs. So that can be a problem for distressed listings, homes that need some work. What can you do if you have an FHA buyer and inventory is tight, and maybe that buyer is interested in a distressed listing? Because as I mentioned, distressed listing and FHA do not go together. So there's actually a strategy that we can use. If you're working with an FHA buyer who brings you a pre-approval letter, reach out to the lender and see if we can get that buyer approved for an FHA loan known as an FHA 203K loan. A 203K loan is a type of an FHA loan that would enable a buyer to buy a distressed property. And again, that seems to fly in the face of what FHA really is. What's going to happen here is that if the buyer can get pre-approved for an FHA 203K, it's going to open up more inventory. It's going to open up those distressed properties. And the FHA appraiser is actually going to appraise the property two different ways. One is at its current market value in the condition it's in, and the second is at its future fixed up value. And the difference between the future value and the current value is an amount of money that FHA is actually going to hold in escrow, and they're going to give the buyer of that property a set amount of time. They're probably going to release that money in stages. There are other conditions and restrictions on that money, such as using a licensed contractor for most of the work, etc. Something that is very different about a 203K versus a regular FHA is that if the buyer gets a 203K, he cannot actually move into that property until all of the work has been completed, versus a regular FHA product where he is required to move into the property upon close of escrow. So as I mentioned, in a traditional FHA loan, mortgage, the buyer is agreeing to move into the property right away, but he's also agreeing to occupy that property for a minimum of 13 months. After 13 months, he's free to move out. He's free to rent that property or do as he wishes. But getting an FHA mortgage does require an immediate move-in and a commitment to occupy for 13 months. And at the beginning of this segment, I mentioned how difficult it can be for FHA buyers to get their offer approved because FHA is, really not that attractive to sellers. So I'd like to address that and give you some options of what you can do with an FHA buyer to get them into a property, especially when inventory is tight or we're really in a seller's market. One thing is HUD listings. So if you go back in time, HUD used to keep a very tight control over their listings. So of course, when we're talking about HUD listings, we're talking about real estate that's owned by the federal government. So there used to be something known as a HUD key. Only one or two brokers in a market were chosen to have HUD keys. The homes were not on MLS. The homes were not on traditional lockboxes. You actually had to go and get a HUD key from one of those approved brokers, show the property, and then return the key to the broker. That is not the way it works anymore. HUD properties are now in MLS, and any broker who is approved can sell that property. TR Realty is HUD approved. If you're a real estate agent with a company that is not approved by HUD, you can't sell a HUD property, but all of my associates can do that. And HUD, federal government, FHA, federal government, HUD is a great resource for those listings. HUD homes are pretty good, actually. They typically have fresh paint. Usually they have new carpet, new appliances. They are habitable. So if you locate a HUD listing for an FHA buyer, you're not going to face any kind of discrimination because of the loan type. HUD welcomes FHA buyers, again, because they're both federal programs or federal agencies. So if you have an FHA buyer, a great strategy is to go into MLS. There is a drop-down menu where you can search only for HUD properties. If that doesn't work for you, there's another way you can find HUD properties in your market, and that's by visiting a website known as the HUD Home Store. So www.hudhomestore.com, and you should be able to see listings there. HUD homes, like I said, they're clean, they're nice, they're typically starter homes. They're usually not, $1 million mansions located on the 9th fairway or anything, but they're great starter homes. They're nice and clean, and they're a great option for an FHA buyer. I should also mention that if you are making an offer on a HUD home, you should probably, as a standard practice, you should probably ask for 3% back in closing costs for your buyer. This is standard procedure on HUD homes. So just to run some numbers by you, if the property is listed for $200,000, you should probably feel comfortable to ask for a $6,000 credit for the buyer at closing. And that's going to help the buyer with his closing costs, maybe toward his down payment, some of his title and escrow expenses, etc. So don't be shy about asking for that 3% on a HUD home. If you have an FHA buyer who's interested in investing in real estate, also we don't think FHA and investment go together that well. But I want to give you a little strategy. If someone maybe is a startup investor, they're looking to go out and buy their first investment property, and they can't qualify for conventional financing, maybe they don't have that much down payment, one strategy I want to share with you is that according to FHA, anything up to 4 residential units is considered to be residential. So keeping in mind that 13-month occupancy commitment that the buyer would make in an FHA situation, what that investor could do if he wants to get started investing is to buy a 4-unit, or of course he could buy a 2 or 3 unit building as well. That would still be residential, that would still qualify for FHA financing. So getting the FHA loan, he could purchase up to a 4-unit building. He could occupy one of those units for 13 months. He could rent out the other units in the building. And then when that 13-month time period has elapsed, he's free to move out and turn the unit that he was living in into a rental unit as well. Then the entire property would be a rental property, but he can keep that mortgage since he's satisfied his 13-month occupancy requirement. That is just a great way for an investor who's starting out. And one more thing I want to mention about FHA buyers, especially in a seller's market, is to show new construction. There are new construction communities around Southern Nevada. Maybe they're not advertised that heavily or promoted that much, but if you look carefully and maybe get on the phone with the 3 dozen builders or so doing business in Southern Nevada, you might be able to find some communities where the price point is quite reasonable, and you're not going to have any kind of discrimination against an FHA buyer in a new construction community. So that is another great resource, in my opinion, another great thing to check out for FHA buyers. I would like to thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative for you. If you are licensed with another brokerage in Southern Nevada and would like to talk with me, please text me or visit our website. See you next time.